Fantastic. So just as Natalie had said, my name is Stephen Cooper. I'm back to moderate this segment, which is for Congressional Representative in Districts 1 and 2. With us this evening, we have Congressman Rick Larsen and Mr. Tim Hazelo. I want to make sure I pronounce it correct. It's a respect thing. All right, Hazelo, fantastic. And then Congresswoman DelBene could not be with us this evening, but she did submit videos answering all of the same questions that you two will be getting. So in a bit of a technological feat, I will have a timer going for you two, so you know how long you have to answer the questions. And then I will stop that screen share and jump over to screen share Congresswoman DelBene's videos. So it could get a little sloppy, and I apologize in advance, but we'll do the best that we can. So we'll begin with Congressman Larsen. You have 90 seconds for an introductory statement. And I'll go ahead and pull the timer up here. All right, and then 90 seconds whenever you're ready.
All right, thank you so much, Stefan, for the opportunity to address Western Washington students and others who will be watching this. My name is Rick Larsen. I'm running for re-election to Congress, and I would really like your support. People are voting right now. Turnout in Whatcom County is nearly 60%. And I hope if you're not one of those 60%, that you are not one of the 60%, that you become part of what could be record-breaking turnout, because your vote is important, especially this year. There's a lot on the ballot, a lot of issues on the ballot, but in running for Congress, the issues that are on the ballot are expanding access to healthcare, climate change, investing in infrastructure that creates jobs for long-term recovery, continuing pandemic relief or COVID-19 relief, especially to the state, local, tribal, and territorial governments, and to our universities and K-12 systems. These are the kinds of things that are on the ballot. I have a strong position on all these issues. I look forward to answering your questions tonight. I would ask for your support. Just in conclusion, I would note, as part of the opening statement, I'm one of 8 kids, and we all went to college because my parents valued higher education, even though they themselves did not go to college. It's an important ethic in our family. It's one we have impressed upon our sons, and I hope that you'll give me your support in this election. I'm Rick Larsen, and I ask for your vote. Thank you.
Thank you. And then Mr. Hazelo, 90 seconds as well for an introductory statement.
All right. Well, hey, I want to say thank you to you guys as well. I've been watching the forum, and it's been pretty impressive. You guys have done a really good job. I've really enjoyed it. So good job with that. So once again, my name is Tim Hazelo, and I'm running for Congress in the 2nd Congressional District as a different type of candidate. I don't want to be a lifetime politician. I want to go in there. I want to fix some things. I want to stir some stuff up. I want to get rid of the career politicians who have been there for 20, 30, 40 years, and yet look where we're at today. I mean, honestly, let's think about this. We could blame President Trump. We could blame the current administration for all the problems we have. But do you think it really happened in 3.5 years? Or do you think we built up to this? So I think we need term limits. I think we need people in Congress and in the Senate to get in there, get busy, do their job, and not worry about their next election, but worry about what the people need. Worry about where our country is going. Worry about who we are as a nation and how we're looked at in the world. So that's what I want to do. I want to bring common sense, and I want to bring the people's perspective back to what used to be the people's house, which is now just a career politician's house full of lobbyists. So I ask for your vote. I look forward to working for you guys in January, and I definitely appreciate all the support you've given me over the last 8 months. Thank you.
Thank you so much to you two. And now it is time for the technological feat where I jump over and show Congresswoman DelBene's video. So bear with me here for just a second.
Hi, I'm Suzan DelBene, and I've had the honor of representing the 1st Congressional District since 2012. I first ran for Congress and continue to run because I believe everyone should have access to opportunity. My family struggled financially after my dad lost his job when I was in the 4th grade. We moved all over the country as my parents looked for work. But despite that, I was able to get a great education and attend college thanks to financial aid and student loans. After I graduated, my parents moved in with me because they had nowhere else to turn. I was fortunate that my education helped me get a job and take care of my family. I'm not sure if I were growing up today that I would have had those same opportunities. Opportunity shouldn't be dependent on where you live, your financial status, or the color of your skin. Yet this pandemic has shown us that it's not only opportunities that are scarce in communities of color or in families struggling to make ends meet, it's basic resources as well. We were the first in the nation to experience the outbreak of COVID-19, and we've seen the breadth of this historic public health and economic crisis. Since day one, I've been advocating and fighting for the resources our district, state, and nation need to combat the pandemic. 2020 has certainly shown us that we need strong, steady leadership driven by science and data, not partisan fear-mongering. I wake up every day with renewed dedication to fighting for the 1st Congressional District, but even more so in these extraordinary times. Thank you.
All right, and then we will jump back over to the timer screen, and I will hold that up for you guys, and we'll start with our first question, which is going to be for Congressman Larsen. Sorry, just one more second while I pull the timer up.
Sure.
All right, there we go. And it's going to be 90 seconds as well. And the first question is, what work will you do in Congress to address climate change?
Yeah, thanks for the question. First, I think we need to recognize that climate change is real, that it's human-made, and science shows that. And we need to rely on science to guide policy. In Congress, I've been an active participant in the climate change debate to fight climate change and protect our environment. Just a few of the bills I have voted for include the Clean Economy, Jobs, and Innovation Act, which spurs innovation and job growth while fighting climate change, while investing and modernizing our energy infrastructure. The Climate Action Now Act, which would get the U.S. back into the Paris Climate Change Agreement, because it will take U.S. leadership to lead the global effort to fighting climate change. I'm a co-sponsor of the 100% Clean Economy Act, which calls for a net zero pollution economy by 2050, matching what our own state legislature has done. I helped draft and pass the Moving Forward Act, a transportation bill that actually begins to turn a corner on making our transportation system cleaner and greener. And because we need to protect our environment as well, I have fought hard over the last years, and we finally did pass collectively the Great American Outdoors Act, which permanently authorizes and permanently funds the Land and Water Conservation Fund, creating a permanent source of funding to protect the nation's critical areas. So I hope you'll support me because of my fight against climate change. Thanks.
Thank you, Congressman Larsen. And then Mr. Hazelo, same question to you with 90 seconds. What work will you do in Congress to address climate change?
Sure. Well, first of all, what we have to realize is that climate change has been happening, well, since Earth became Earth. And to say that it's all human created is not necessarily the pure scientific method that the left likes to think it is. I mean, realize in the 70s, the climate change people thought we were going to freeze to death within 10 years. In the 80s and 90s, we were going to be so hot that the polar ice caps were going to melt and we were going to drown down the coast. Now it's just climate change because they can't come up with a specific thing that's going to happen in the future. So we need to address climate change, but for us to think that we're so arrogant that we can change it, that we can make Earth not do what Earth is going to do, that's pretty arrogant. Only God can do that. But what we can do is we can be good stewards of the climate, which is what I am, which is what most Republicans are. So I say, yeah, let's go out and change some things. Let's go out. Let's not dump oil in the ocean. That's ridiculous. People don't do that. But Mr. Larsen, he wants to go do all these fancy bills, fund all these things, do all these taxes. You'd realize, where's that money going to come from? We're just going to create it. We're just going to pull it out of thin air. We're just going to tax the rich. The rich don't have enough. So we need to quit talking and start doing and be better stewards as people, not as a government.
Thank you. And then once again, we'll jump over to Congresswoman DelBene's video.
I want to be clear. The climate crisis is one of the most serious threats that we face. Just last month, we watched as wildfires ravaged our state, destroying communities and polluting our air. And this isn't the first time that this has happened. Science shows us that the increased frequency and strength of these wildfires, along with severe flooding in the Midwest and hurricanes on the East Coast, are all directly linked to climate change. President Trump has undone many Obama administration policies to combat climate change and has consistently opposed new efforts to address the crisis or even acknowledge it. To face this threat, we need to take serious steps at every level of government, but most necessary is federal action. In the House, we've passed legislation to rejoin the Paris Climate Accord. I voted for the Clean Economy Jobs and Innovation Act to incentivize the use of renewable energy and technology so we can decrease our emissions. I've also co-sponsored and will continue to support efforts to transition to a 100% clean economy by 2050. We must reduce our dependence on fossil fuels and foreign oil and build a new economy based on clean, renewable energy. This is an economic opportunity for our state, given our innovation and leadership on this issue.
All right, I'll get the timer pulled back up here as we jump to our next question. And this question will be we will start for this question with Mr. Hazelo. And it is, what actions will you take in Congress to address the massive college debt that students in our country face? And you will have 90 seconds.
Yeah, boy, I was sure hoping that question would come up. So what I would do to address this massive student debt is I would look to the colleges. So right now we have college for profit. I haven't ran into very many kids who went to Skagit Valley College and technical colleges that had a problem finding a job without a huge amount of debt and making a living and having a career. Let's take a look at this. I wrote these down earlier today. Western Washington University has $77.3 million in their endowment. Can they not afford to help people go to school? Washington State, $540 million. University of Puget Sound, $260 million. Let's talk about some of the big colleges. Stanford, $27.7 billion. They could send people to college for free on their own ticket for hundreds of years and not run out of money. Cal, $3 billion, same thing. So to go out and try to take other people's money to send kids to college that could do just as well at Skagit Valley or some other technical university and probably be better off in the long run rather than college for profit, then I think the colleges can afford to do this. If the colleges are that worried about it and the students are that worried about it, look to the colleges, not to the government. Free isn't free. That's what people don't understand. Free costs somebody until you run out of that other person's money. Thank you.
Thank you. And then Congressman Larsen, same question to you. What actions will you take in Congress to address the massive college debt that students in our country face? And you will have 90 seconds.
Yeah, thank you. First, let me just start with the principle that, in my view, public education is a foundation for ensuring an access to opportunity for all Americans. And so on that point, I've supported legislation in the past, I support legislation now that would offer 2 years of free tuition to students who meet certain income and academic achievement standards. This is a bill that first introduced under the Obama administration, and I'd like to see that introduced under a Biden-Harris administration, because I don't expect the Trump administration to support something like this, because they haven't so far. I also supported the College Affordability Act. This is a bill that would increase the value of Pell Grants, the #1 source of federal financial aid, to help put money in students' pockets to pay for books, to pay for room and board, to pay for living expenses. We need to expand access to dual enrollment and early college high school programs. These are proven programs that lessen the burden on the cost that students get by paying when they pay for school. It'll cut the debt down when they come out of school at the back end. And we need to make student loans cheaper as well. We need to let students renegotiate their loans to what's offered in the market, which is currently much lower than what they have now. So there's a lot of steps we can take, and I hope that we can and we will next year. Thank you.
Thank you. And then once again, we will jump over to Congresswoman DelBene's video.
Like many of you, I was able to attend college on a combination of financial aid, loans, grants, and work study. I'm not saying it was easy back then, but it was certainly much easier than it is today. When President Trump took office in 2017 with a Republican-led House and Senate, they were able to roll back Obama administration policies to help students pay off their debts. Not only have they saddled students with more debt, they've also eased regulations on student loan companies. I have consistently stood up for students and supported efforts at the federal level to help states provide tuition-free community college, particularly to low-income and first-generation students. I've strongly advocated to make college more affordable and accessible by lowering student loan interest rates, allowing loan refinancing, and strengthening proven programs like Pell Grants and Perkins loans. And I've led legislation to allow workers who have already accumulated student debt to receive tuition repayment benefits from their employer without a tax penalty. To invest in our future, we must make higher education affordable. It should be an option for all, not a luxury.
All right, and we'll jump back over to our next question. And Congressman, oh, got to switch the timer over. And then Congressman Larsen, this question will begin with you, 90 seconds once again. What is your position on defunding law enforcement agencies?
Thanks for the question. I do not support defunding law enforcement agencies. As a former county council member in Snohomish County, I did ride-arounds with our local deputy sheriffs. I interacted a lot with our local law enforcement agencies, the city police. As a member of Congress, I've worked with local law enforcement agencies like the Drug Task Force, and as well as local city police departments to seek funding for them as well. But we do need to pass the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act because there are problems with law enforcement in this country. And I reached out to leaders in the Black community throughout the district to get their advice on what should be in the Justice and Policing Act. Many of those suggestions were incorporated into it, into the Justice and Policing Act, creating a national police misconduct registry, mandating the use of dashboard cameras, prohibiting federal, state, and local law enforcement from discriminatory profiling, banning chokeholds and no-knock warrants at the federal level. I also have supported in the past and continue to support demilitarizing the police and limiting the scope of the what we call the Section 1033 program that transfers defense products over to local law enforcement agency. So there are things that we can do to better ensure well-trained law enforcement and better ensure the safety of our community, but we need to do that working together. Thank you.
All right, and Mr. Hazelo, same question to you. What is your position on defunding law enforcement agencies? 90 seconds.
Okay, cool. Real quick, somebody mentioned federal financial aid for students. What we should be thinking about is federal financial aid for the colleges, because where's that money really going? And the students aren't getting a whole lot out of it in today's colleges. So police defunding, absolutely not. That has got to be one of the stupidest things I've ever heard in my entire life. I was a cop in San Diego for the Department of Defense. Nobody in my force that I know of, and nobody police officer I've ever met, wakes up one morning and says, hey, I'm just going to go out and find somebody and beat them up and kill them just because. That doesn't happen. And if it does happen, which I don't know if it has, if it does happen, we take care of it right away. We fix it right away. Now, Mr. Larsen's bill, or the one he supports, has some good stuff in it. I'm not totally against everything that's in there. I believe in cameras. I believe in dash cameras, uniform cameras. I believe that the police should be held accountable. But what I also believe is that criminals should be held accountable. I don't know if most of the students there who are watching this are probably going to know who Chris Rock is. I suggest you go out and watch Chris Rock's video about how not get in trouble with the police. It's funny, but it's truthful. We need to teach respect to our sons and daughters. We need to teach respect to our young people, and they need to respect the officers in charge. And that's what we need to do. We don't need to defund the police. You don't want the normal person being their own police officer. I'm just saying that right now.
Thank you to you both. And then we will jump over to Congresswoman DelBene's video.
The deaths of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Manuel Ellis, and too many others have shed a painful light on police brutality and the injustices, discrimination, and bias impacting Black Americans and the BIPOC community. It's so inspiring to see a mass mobilization of people pushing for policy change to address policing and systemic racism. On the heels of protests this summer, I was extremely proud to join my colleagues in the Congressional Black Caucus as an original co-sponsor of the George Floyd Justice in Policing Act. This legislation takes much needed steps towards ending police brutality and racial profiling and providing accountability and transparency. Making changes around the margins clearly won't solve this problem, and this bill is a bold first step. But one bill alone will not address centuries of discrimination and racism. It will take all of us. As my former colleague, the great John Lewis, said, if you see something that is not right, not fair, not just, you have a moral obligation to do something about it. We must all stand up and speak out for change.
All right, jumping back over to our next question, which for timing purposes will be our last. I will get the timer pulled up once again. And then this one will begin with Mr. Hazelo. What actions would you like to see Congress take to aid Washington in a coronavirus recovery? And you will have 90 seconds for this.
Okay, cool. First of all, I think we need to say some other names as well, like Sergeant Harold Preston, who was shot and killed on duty, like Delray Bruce, shot and killed on duty. It's not a one-way street. More police officers are shot by criminals than criminals are shot by police. So we need to keep that straight first and foremost. So as far as coronavirus goes, I say open it up. We know how to treat it. Yes, we're having a lot more cases. We're doing a lot more testing, which gives us a lot more cases. I think, and I'm not a scientist, but our scientists jump all over the place. First, we don't wear masks, then we do wear masks, then we don't have to wear masks in certain situations, but we do in other situations. We can shop in Walmart, but we can't shop at the mom and pop shop. I'm not a scientist, but what I do know is that most of us are going to catch this at some point in time, mask or not. And the treatments that we came up with are better and better every day. The cases are going up, and yet the deaths and mortality per cases are going down. So we're learning a lot about this. When the cure is worse than the cancer, when we're killing people with the cure, we've got a problem. Open up the economy. That's how we're going to help Washington. We're going to get Jay Inslee to open up the economy. That guy's been a disaster when it comes to this stuff. So we need to get Jay Inslee out, the economy open. The federal government needs to encourage states to get out there and open up their economies.
Thank you. And then Congressman Larsen, same question to you. What actions would you like to see Congress take to aid Washington in coronavirus recovery?
Thanks. I would note that cancer kills quite a number of people in the United States without COVID-19, and including my father several years back. But COVID-19 kills people as well. And there's still a rising number of cases in Washington state. And so opening up the economy without considering safety is irresponsible. In fact, the public health response still needs to lead before economic recovery. A good public health response will lead us to economic recovery. And there aren't any shortcuts. There isn't a pretend way to get around that. That's why we need another COVID-19 relief package to help people who are still getting hurt, not by primarily the lack of economic recovery, but by a COVID-19 pandemic that is impacting the economic recovery. So we still need to deal with public health issues and support folks getting hurt, still hurt by the pandemic because of the lack of the economic recovery. And that includes passing the HEROES 2.0 Act, which will give additional resources to state, local, tribal, and territorial governments. It will extend the moratorium on evictions and foreclosures. It will add $600 a week to unemployment. It'll provide that foundation for folks to help us get through the pandemic while we fight the pandemic as well. Thank you.
Thank you both. And then once again, jumping over to Congresswoman DelBene's video.
Our district was the first in the nation to experience the outbreak of COVID-19, and we've seen the breadth of this historic public health and economic crisis. We've lost too many friends and loved ones, and families, workers, and small businesses are struggling to get by. Since day one, I've been fighting for the resources we need here at home in both the CARES Act, the last relief bill to pass, and the HEROES Act, the legislation the House first passed last May. I've led the push to expand the Employee Retention Tax Credit, which would help 60 million Americans remain connected to their paychecks and their benefits. I've successfully worked to include my child tax credit bill in the HEROES Act to provide more help to families that are struggling. I've helped secure funds for essential services like public health and first responders, as well as ensured that funds are provided to backfill spending as Washington state was impacted before other parts of the country. Unfortunately, the Senate and the President have not made ongoing relief a priority. Instead of taking up the HEROES Act or even passing a bill of their own, enhanced unemployment benefits were allowed to expire, leaving many working families on the brink of financial collapse. This inaction is hurting American families and businesses. The American people, Washington State, and the 1st District need relief now, not later, and I'll keep fighting for that.
All right. And then due to timing purposes, we will not have time for a Q&A or closing statements, unfortunately, which is completely on us due to a timing mix-up. But please know to both Congressman Larsen and Mr. Hazelo, we're more than appreciative of you joining us and your participation. To everyone watching, we will put the websites of Congressman Larsen, Mr. Hazelo, as well as Congresswoman DelBene in the chat. So you're more than welcome to further, kind of get their views on things from their own perspective. And I'm going to go ahead and hand it back over to my co-moderator, Natalie, who will be speaking with the candidates for the Whatcom County Superior Court.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.